Okay, welcome back
What-
to...
Is it crazy or is it God?
That's correct.
Yes. What's going on, guys? How we doing? Huh? How was everybody's week?
Yeah, how was your week? I'm curious.
Yeah, man, we need to know how everybody's week is. They're wonderful 7 days. Sometimes it's 3 for others, 4 for others. Sometimes it's 5 for others. So the
Yeah.
weeks go. Me, it's 7. I enjoy all my 7.
Yeah, I always say that I feel like I'm stuck in between 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
So even now, I'm thinking of Monday, right? Like, what will I have done by Monday? Because it's Saturday.
Not me. I'm thinking about the IICIIG tournament in these games today. Not thinking about tomorrow.
Hmm.
A little bit. A
Okay.
little bit about tomorrow. About I try to keep tomorrow very short.
Yeah.
Sunday. It's the day before I get into my week.
So how was your week? Speaking of weeks.
Oh, my week was good. I actually learned something about myself, about gratitude.
Mm.
And shout out to, shout out. Well, actually, I was listening to a Bible, Elevation Church. What's his name? But
Pastor Stephen
It
Furtick?
wasn't Pastor Stephen Furtick. It was another pastor, and
Oh,
he was
okay.
talking about gratitude. Then I heard it again from Gary V, and it was just like, oh man, I don't have enough gratitude as I should. I should be way more happy, especially where what we have and where we're at, you know? And that was it. And I worked out 3 times this week. 4. Worked out 4 times this week. I'm gonna work out tomorrow. I woke up early 3 times this week. So it was really good. I did my routine 3 times. And it's a real difference when I do my routine versus I don't. During my routine, I pray, I meditate, I write my journal, I write my accountability book, I say my affirmations, I work out, drink a smoothie. It's a good routine,
Yeah.
and I feel good. But that's what I kind of learned today. And when you have gratitude and you thank God for what you have and where you are, and you take one day at a time, I found myself more happier. Like, life happens. Busy at work, that's cool. I get to work. I asked God for this.
Yeah.
And it wasn't too long ago, we were sweeping peanuts. There's nothing wrong with that, but we just wanted a little bit more.
Yeah. Back when we worked at the circus.
Uh,
We didn't work at the circus, but you could call it that.
oh, man.
Well, that's what's up.
Yeah,
I'm glad you had a really good week.
yeah. And my allergies are great today, guys. So.
Well,
How was your week?
my week was good too. I am not as far along as you are. Actually, I'm not far along at all. But I've been able to make some sort of adjustments and observations, which I feel is really the beginning for me of what I need to do, what my morning routine should incorporate. I still haven't gotten it done. And I say that sort of with a grain of salt because I feel like we all have a routine. We just aren't necessarily intentional about it. So just like I am consistent. I'm just consistent doing the things that might not serve me, right? So we all are consistent. We all have a morning routine. My morning routine, I would like to start earlier and I would like to incorporate things that I already have written down. I just haven't gotten there. So, I mean, my week was better than previous weeks, but in some ways it wasn't. And so I'm just on this journey of self-discovery and understanding what my intentions are, what the consequences are of not following through on those intentions. So overall, I mean, it was a good week because I learned about myself. And it was a good week at work. Even though it was super busy, I think that I like the way our team is working together and, just learning about myself, learning about God, learning about what God is doing in me, what works He's doing through me. And I too am learning about gratitude and how when you don't have gratitude, that it takes away from other areas of your life. Like, so I experienced this week where when you're only focusing on the things that aren't going well, or so you think they're not going well, it could just take energy from you, right?
Yeah.
Like you're just pouring out just empty energy that could be utilized better if you are aware of what you're doing and what your energy pools or levels are at, So yeah, I had a good week. It was an informational learning week for me. I certainly am not as far along as you are with the morning routine and the meditation and the affirmations and stuff, but I do get my stuff in during the day. But I would love to. I'm gonna get there with you. So I'm glad you're such a great example, James.
Yeah, man.
No, seriously though, like I am. Yeah, so that was my week.
Yeah, man.
And here we are.
I think shout out to you and Demita. You gotta about to start your podcast and y'all going live. And I like how, of course, I was listening, and because I'm being nosy, guys, that's why. Don't worry. So no, I just want to support, and I really love your conversations. So it's good to hear it and see it, and I like how I think Demita said it is when you have a bad day, when you have a bad thought, it just rolls over like a snowball effect.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be careful of that, and I do that, and I have to. We probably do it so much unconsciously that you start to see it when you're conscious about it. That's when you start to change. Like, oh nope, James, you're intelligent. You just made a mistake. Get better. It happens. Don't be like, oh man, oh, I'm such an idiot. Don't say it. You're not.
Right. Or I can't do this.
I can't do this.
That's interesting because one of the things that I've realized last year in 2021 is that I was taking on an emotion when things didn't go well, let's say with something with work. And I noticed that about myself. Well, just because this process isn't working doesn't mean that I'm wrong or that I'm a bad worker. It just means that we need to adjust the process, right?
Yep.
So that's what I like to think whenever I have a bad thought. We have so many thoughts. We have thousands of thoughts a day, and I'm very intentional about, or trying to be very intentional about, selecting the ones that are going to be serving me. So like it's something that happened in the past that I can't change. I don't necessarily want to dwell on that too long. I want to be thinking of ways that I can improve. And so when I connect to a thought and there's nothing I can do about it, I like to just okay, well, that's not anything I can do about it. If there is something I can do about it, I'll explore that thought. But it's just like if all these thoughts are just floating around like that little math problem meme that people are doing, and you can choose and grab and say, oh, I want to think about this. Oh, I have something to add to this. And you just kind of bringing them into your space. You're going to focus on these things because these are the things you can do something about. And all that other stuff that's floating around out there, you don't necessarily need. That's one of my thoughts. But it's hard in practice. It's easy to say oh, I'm just going to think positive. But it's not that easy especially when you have responsibilities and you have to get through the day and maybe you're not feeling that great, because that's another way when you talk about snowballing. When you sit there and you realize I'm not in the best mood, I'm in a bad mood, or I'm irritated or whatever, that's like a a call to action. Really, like, okay, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to have a bad day? Is this a bad day? Yeah. Are you speaking that over yourself? Oh, I'm just going to have a bad day today, right? And just attracting all that to you. No. That's not what we're doing. Yeah. We're saying, okay, these things didn't go well, but from here, they're going to get better.
That's it.
Right? Or whatever I can do to enjoy my day, I'm going to do it.
That's it, man.
And that's really the mindset that I will take. You know what? I did do that this week. Even though I had some rough starts, I'll say I did. I took on the energy of improvement, of self-improvement and awareness. So it's like, okay, now you've identified something that's not working. So what are you going to do about it, right? Instead of saying, it's a bad day, I'm horrible, right? It's just like, yeah, I had some of those thoughts, but then I was like, you know what? This is an opportunity, right? If you're going to run away to a faraway land where everything is great, what does that place look like? You know what I'm saying? Make it happen here. So, anyway.
So, all right, guys. Now, this week, we've read Exodus 19 through 29. This was pretty interesting because let's get into it. Let's do that. Let's get into it. So 19 through 21, God appears at Mount Sinai.
I don't know is it pronounced like that?
I don't know. Sinai.
It looks like Sinai, but I'm not really sure.
Listen, guys.
Because I was like, I know there isn't such thing as Mount Sinai, but I don't know if that's the same place that we're reading about.
Yeah, because I'm going to be really honest. I have to pray because these words I butcher. The names I butcher, and it's probably Mount Sinai. If this is back in the day, I don't know, man. God would rather have been like, that's not how you pronounce it. But the Ten Commandments. So we going with Sinai? No. Yeah, Sinai. Mount Sinai.
I mean, however you feel comfortable pronouncing it. I mean, let's just say Sinai. I don't know. I'm not the...
You pronounce words better.
I pronounce words better.
You see that? I make up stuff, guys.
That's okay. I understand.
My own language.
You have your own language, and I understand your language. So we're good.
But we gotta speak this language. All right.
All right.
Okay. For real, what do you think?
So, executive decision. Let's just say Sinai.
Sinai, Mount Sinai. That's what we're going with. Bam.
Well, so it doesn't say Mount Sinai, does it? Or does it say Sinai? Wilderness of Sinai. Oh, okay.
Oh, yours says... Oh, okay.
No. I'm just reading this one verse, but okay, let's Sinai. Just say whatever comes out of your mouth next. That's
Mount
what we're going to use.
And the Ten Commandments and the rules, servants, and personal injuries. So this one, I mean, this is the cool thing. When we were reading it, I was like, man, it's so cool that, well, it's cool. And I'm saying this now because this is where I'm at. It's cool for me, but to probably be in the presence of God is probably cool but fearful because he was striking people dead.
Yeah.
Wasn't like, he was like, hey, boom, didn't do what I told you. So, but it's still, it's cool. I'm going to say it, that God was like, his presence was, this is like the beginning, so his presence was just around more. And I'm not saying God isn't around. God is all around us, but I mean, he was, the tabernacle's being created. He has the covenant. Mm-hmm. It's holidays that are being, holidays, right? Like Passover's tradition, not holidays, traditions are being created. Passover, circumcision. It's a lot of things that are here that God had his hand in it. And it seems like people are God is with them. You know, I'm not saying God's not with everybody, but we're talking about it's maybe 8 billion people on Earth. I don't even know if it's 1 million people
at this point.
At this point, it might be
in the word, right? We don't know. Anything you would say after this would be guessing.
Yeah, but it's not as much as it is now.
Clearly. And then also one thing that I just want to point out, just going off what you said.
Yeah.
I would imagine, not saying that I was alive back then, but there were less distractions.
Yes.
Right? Because it's like if you are, let's say, a shepherd, right? Most of the things that you do during the day are just having to do with being a shepherd.
Yeah.
Right? You might get distracted a few times, but you're not out there on your cell phone. You're not looking stuff up on Instagram or the internet.
Yep.
Right? And so
not watching TV. There's no TV.
And I say this because, you have mentioned the thing about being in God's presence or God being present. God is always present, but I think one of the things about being a believer is that, we invite him into our space because we have what is it called? We have the choice, right?
Yeah.
So we want to be active about calling on God, including him in our decisions. And when people say, put God first, sometimes I didn't used to understand, like, what does that even mean? Like, well, I got to go to work and I got to do this thing, whatever. Like, I can't do that right now. But it's not that. It's like, whatever you're doing, seek God first, right? Yeah. Even before we go on a car ride, whether it be down the street or whatever, we'll say a prayer, right? God, cover us during this ride or whatever. Sometimes I'll be at work and I'll be about to go into a meeting. And it's not like I'm not prepared for the meeting or whatever, but it's just like, God, just be with me through this, or it'll be something super random, like earlier when we were doing some housework and I was thinking like, I hope this works, and I just prayed about it. It's just like, I think that's my interpretation of putting God first. It's not that you're just going to be sitting there praying and writing out words in the Bible all day. It's that whatever it is that you're doing, when you remember and you're having a relationship with God, you're including him in it, right? Yeah. Before you make a decision, before you start thinking about something, it's just like, God, I hope you'll come along and be with me, and inviting him into your space and understanding that, like, I don't want to work with my own understanding. I want you to work through me. Yeah. And so I think when we talk about, sorry, I know this is long-winded, but I think when we talk about God being present more back in those days, it's like we didn't have a lot of the distractions. No. They didn't have a lot of the distractions that we now have. Yeah. It's like you could fill up a whole day sometimes and not even think to pray, because there's so many things that are like dinging and calling to your attention, and horns honking and TVs blaring and phone notifications going off. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Neighbors yelling. Anyway.
Oh, okay.
So, cars going by, lawnmowers. It's
a lot of stuff
going on, man. Right? So, all right. So, the rules, the 10 Commandments, and 10 Commandments, man. I don't know. The one that says don't. I was younger, guys. I was around 10 or 11. I might have cursed at my parents. I don't know if I would have been.
Oh, yeah.
I might have been struck down, guys.
A lot of these commandments, though.
Early.
Man, these commandments are
love you, Mom and Dad, but it was in a room. I was by myself, and I was like,
yeah, that's something I used to say as a child too.
You don't understand.
Not that I was cussing it, but I certainly wasn't doing it to anybody's face.
No, I'm not doing it to the face. I wouldn't be here.
Right. But also, it's one of those things was like, I can't wait to grow up and I don't have to be in my room. Right? And all these things when you're little, I just want to go out with my friends. They're being whatever, right? It's like, you don't even know.
You don't know. You've only been on this earth 11 or 12 years.
Or when you want something and they wouldn't buy it for you. Yeah. It's like, they're being so stingy. You have no idea what the cost of living is, how much groceries cost, how much clothes cost, how much gasoline you got to put in the car. Oh my God, the house payment, the car payment, the insurance, and like, oh my gosh, all that stuff. Yep. And then having, oh man,
the audacity.
It's a whole wow. The audacity.
The audacity, man.
The audacity. So yeah, about the 10 Commandments.
Yeah, so I mean, we could say the 10 Commandments. I think everybody knows them.
Yeah, well, they can look them up too. Where are they? Yeah. Are they somewhere in here? We read them all. Yeah. So what happened was the Israelites were in the wilderness, and Moses' father-in-law came and visited, and he told him, gave him some advice, like, you should set things up like this, so you don't have to worry about this. This is last reading. But now we find them sort of like in the wilderness, and God is like, I'm going to tell you some things that you need to tell the people, speak to the Israelites. And so he came up on the mountain and all that. And then he gave him all of these instructions of how the people should live.
Yeah. So when people say, it's not just 10 commandments, it's like, here the 10 commandments, and then here are the rules of life. And it's, they're broken down. But let's answer these questions before we get into that. All right, here's the 10 commandments, guys. Ready? Thou shalt not have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image. Don't serve two masters. Right? Okay. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Honor thy father and mother. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not bear false witness. Thou shalt not covet. So those are the 10 commandments. Now, here's the questions. Have you ever felt the sight of something that would make you faint? Yeah.
Okay, I was like, what? I guess on sight, has anything ever made me feel like I was going to faint? Maybe not necessarily the sense of sight, but there are things that I misheard before that almost took me out. Like, did that really happen? On sight, though? The sight of something that made me faint. I don't think I've ever fainted before. If I did, it was like something having to do with like maybe band camp, being out there with all that gear. I don't think I've ever fainted before.
Never fainted, and I've pledged. Didn't faint during
so
that time.
I don't know. I don't
why they asked this question. Maybe because
somebody
Moses
fainted.
Saw God.
Yeah.
Maybe, but okay, if I see God, I don't know if I would faint. I don't know. Like,
it's possible.
It's possible, but I can't say I'm a faint.
Have I ever seen the sight of something that
would
make me faint?
I would be fearful. And here's a question. This is what Pastor Bob said. When you see God, do you know what you're gonna say? Probably nothing.
Probably nothing.
I'm probably gonna be like.
I'll probably be like, "Oh God."
Yeah, exactly. I don't think I would. I would ask him questions. Hey man, when I was such.
I don't even think that would come over me. It would just be.
What I'm reading
shock.
That could make me faint.
Yeah.
That could.
I would imagine, because it's like all your emotions taking over. It's overwhelming. It's like,
boom, I'm out.
Right? You imagine. I guess fainting. I'm guessing here.
Yeah.
It has to do with like the nervous system.
Yeah.
And sensory overload, where it's just like, I can't even take all this activity happening in my body. It's just going to shut down.
Yep.
Right? Because like we learned, because we used to be bartenders, the cycle of someone who is drinking too much, right? And it's like, at some point, they're going to just pass out.
You'll see.
Because their body's not going to allow them to stay awake long enough to keep consuming alcohol.
Yeah.
So we've seen that before too. Like somebody at the bar, like, "Hey, dog. Hey, we called you a cab."
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yes. You're sleep.
But so I think it has to do with the nervous system.
Yeah. Because
it's like once you get to a certain point, you just can't take it anymore.
Yeah. And
your body just.
Probably if I saw God, I would think. I'm 90%.
So, but it hasn't happened before. But have I ever felt the sight of something?
Yeah. I would say if I saw God, I would faint.
I guess it's saying, have I ever felt that the sight of something would make me faint? I would think, I'm not too good on like blood and stuff like that, and like I don't ever like to see dead bodies. When I go to funerals, I make it a point not to go up and witness the body.
Dead body.
No, I've seen it before, like at funerals, but I don't enjoy it. So I make it a point when I go to funerals not to view the body. I didn't always do that, but it came to a point probably when I was like.
You've been doing it ever since we've been together.
Yeah, I think it was probably when I was maybe in my 20s, I just decided I don't really want to look at a dead body. That's not them anymore. I used to go up because they'll have the line going up, and if you're gonna follow the flow, you got to go up, view the body, and go to your seat. But probably, I think my grandmother's funeral on my father's side, my grandma Robertson, I just did not want to see her corpse. It's like, this isn't like the way that I know that it's for a purpose, right? So you can have closure, but I was like, I don't want to remember her like that. I want to remember her in the kitchen, with her rollers just got out her hair, and her making eggs at the stove and saying the things that I remember her saying. Like, I just didn't want to see the body. I was like, nah, I'm good. Like, I believe it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that probably would make me faint seeing, especially if I wasn't expecting it, seeing something morbid like that. Oh, that was way too personal, but I said it.
Yeah.
Here we are.
All right. What do you think Moses felt upon seeing God?
Wait, you didn't say what would make you faint. Oh, you said the sight of God.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm pretty good with bodies. Maybe a ghost, maybe somebody in my past.
Yeah.
If I saw like grandmother or my mama Carrie. Yes, my family's from the South. Called her Mama Carrie. My grandmother on my mother's side are like Pop or something.
If you seen a ghost,
if they were like, it wasn't just they were like, hey, and it was like, whoa.
Yeah.
I might, but I'm pretty. My nosy butt be like, what is that?
What is that? Yeah. You're wild.
So,
you're wild. Yeah, okay.
So probably God, guys, if you see me fake. That's probably my answer. All right. What do you think Moses felt upon seeing God?
So Moses had some preparation.
Yes.
Because he saw the burning bush.
Yep.
He's been following along, even though he didn't feel like he was prepared and like he could do the thing that God asked him to do with the Pharaoh and everything. He did it anyway, and he saw God's power. He saw it working through him and his brother Aaron. So I would think he's just regular day for him type thing. Like, not regular day, but I feel like he's probably got some skin in the game, so he probably is just like, oh, this is God, y'all, I gotta take this.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
he was, I think he was kind of, a lot of emotions. I think he was kind of, I think he was, I can't even describe it, not excited. I think it was all the emotions. I think he was excited. I think he reveled. Like, this is God. This is God Almighty, who I've seen done all these miracles.
Mm-hmm.
I bow down to him. I think he reveled like, yo, this is God. This is how I feel.
It's excitement.
It's
the best thing that I can think of is like
at the same time.
The thought of going up the roller coaster.
Yes.
Where you have this ball of energy and you know it's about to be something that's going to happen. And all of that, all of your nerves are just standing up like, oh my God, this is happening. You know what I mean? Like, that's the best thing I have to compare it to.
Yeah, I think it was like bracing
yourself almost.
Yeah. That's what I think.
With excitement, yeah.
All right, guys. Now we're on to Exodus 22 to 24. Now, this is when they break down all the laws. And I know people just always talk about the Ten Commandments, but these kind of like glossed over a lot, I think. Right? So, it's just my opinion. All right. Protection of property, social responsibility, laws of justice and mercy, the Sabbath laws, the 3 annual festivals. God also sent an angel, and a covenant. Covenant confirmed. The covenant is cool. So I wanna. So the laws were very interesting. It was very intricate. I've actually learned why it was funny, and I'm learning to be acceptance of my ignorance. Okay, guys? Especially in the past and now going forward. You just have to take accountability, responsibility, and learn from it. So, when I was in law school, one of the guys, I'm not going to mention his name, but, he was Jewish, and he was like, all of our cases was we had a mock trial, and it was on Saturday. And I was like, man. We were cool too, man. We were cool. That was my study partner, man. He was just a cool guy, man.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, you gonna do this? What are your thoughts? He was like, I'm not gonna do it because I don't work on the Sabbath. And I was like, Saturday? You don't work on Saturday? It doesn't work on Saturday. I didn't think like I don't. So I didn't grow up not doing it. And I've put to church 1,000 times, and I've heard this so many times.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like you don't think of it in everyday life. I was like, it's not working on Saturday. It's Saturday, not Sunday. It's you know what I'm saying. So
yeah, because it's your experiences versus his experience. And what's interesting there is that some people might not take someone else's faith as seriously as they would take their own, right?
It's
so
real.
It's just like, what do you mean you can't do that?
Yeah, I was like,
right?
What?
And it's interesting because just different people doing their religion, practicing their religion, I have respect for that I didn't have before I was aware. Yeah. Right? Yep. So when someone takes off to observe a certain day on their religion, or if someone
celebrates like week or
right, or the way that they might celebrate a holiday, it's their faith, it's them practicing their allegiance to God. So it's a different respect. So I would imagine, because I've had instances like that in the past where I wasn't aware, and I'm just like, is it that serious? Can't you just do it this one time? But it's funny because you don't know, right? You just don't know what you don't know.
And after reading this, it's like, man, after I got older and found out how serious it is, I was like, oh man, that's cool.
Yeah.
You know, I remember, it's jokes about it, but I remember, I think, Kevin Hart makes a joke where he was over in Israel and the elevator was messed up and nobody would fix it because it was the Sabbath.
Yeah, we can't work.
And nobody was working. He was in a hotel. I think our Pastor Pope went to Israel and said nobody works. It's real serious.
Yeah.
And I can totally understand why, especially after reading what we've read and what you guys have listened to and read yourselves. I know you're reading. I just know that. So that's why, you know, after what God has delivered them out of, it's a big deal. So Faith.
Yes, sir.
Name a couple of these laws that strike you most deeply and reflect on why.
Okay.
I already said one of them.
As far as the commandments, right? Or are we talking about...
No, the protection of property, social
responsibility. Oh, okay. Was that in 21? I don't know.
22 to 24, the laws of the... Remember? So it's like...
An ox for 5 sheep or whatever. 5 oxen for 4 sheep. Okay. All right. Injury, so I have to name a couple of them?
I mean, yeah. Not name, but
okay. Okay, so the ones that struck me probably the most were the ones having to do with women, because I'm a woman, so it's just like, oh, this is how I would have been treated. So the one about the man and the virgin who's not betrothed, if he takes her or whatever, then he has to pay the price, and if the father absolutely refuses to still give him to her, then he still has to pay the money equivalent for the dowry. And so it was interesting to me that women were taken kind of sort of like as property. So that kind of hit me in a different way, probably not in the way that, I don't know, that it was meant to be back then. But I guess the ones about property and like harming and oppressing the servants, and there were a couple about just property and like, if you have a piece of property and or if you have something to do with someone else's piece of the property, like a donkey or an animal or something like that, and something happens to that animal while it's in your presence, you are responsible for the cost of it. I'm also imagining that these were the types of disputes that Moses was spending all day. Last time when we read about him spending all day settling disputes amongst the Israelites, I'm imagining that these are some of the things that he was sorting out for people. Like, well, if you did this and it was yours and he told you that he was going to take care of it, then you're wrong. You know what I'm saying? Or he's wrong, right? So as we're going through these about just how people should treat each other and treat each other's property,
Yeah.
the thing that sticks out to me the most is that perhaps you might not remember all the rules or laws, but what it does is it directs you into a way of being, a way of thinking, a way of life, right? Where you have respect and ownership over someone else's life and property the same way you would yours. So basically, it really kind of shakes out to whatever you do, you could be held responsible for. So watch what you do. If you're dealing with someone else's property or someone else's life or someone else's well-being, right, then you could be held to account if you mishandle this. So
Yeah.
don't mishandle it, and then you
Yeah.
don't have to be worried about all that. It's like, I think that was the theme that I got out of it, because they all kind of made sense to me.
Yeah.
As far as like, if you do this, then it'll come to this and you'll owe this.
Yep.
Right? You either owe them a replacement or
Yep.
you owe them whatever you took. Sometimes it was a life.
Sometimes it was a life.
If you take some, it says right here in 22.
Yep, I was just reading it. 21, 22.
21, 22.
Yeah.
Oh, I for I think that's 21, 20. Anyway,
Yeah.
that's 21, 24. But whoever strikes a man.
Yeah.
Oh, I was thinking 21:12. Exodus 21:12.
Okay.
Whoever strikes a man so that he dies must be put to death.
Yep.
So right there, it's like, well, game over,
Yep.
right? You don't want to be doing that. I would remember that one,
Yeah.
right? If I didn't remember any of the other ones about the oxen and the donkeys, I would remember that one. So I'll make sure, right? Because it's game over at that point.
Yeah, and it doesn't sound like it's too extreme. I mean, if they're like, if it's a fair fight, it's a fair fight. But most of these laws were kind of like what you said. If my oxen escapes and destroys property or kills a child, then I'm responsible.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it's kind of. I mean, I agree with it.
Mm-hmm. Or if you dig a hole and somebody's animal
Yeah.
falls in the hole, you owe whoever.
Yeah, because this is
animal that was another animal type of thing.
You got to think, guys, and I'm gonna harp on this so much. I had a conversation, good friend Rose, shout out Rose. So money doesn't exist back then, right? Things from the earth do. Rubies, gold, silver, linen, sheep. A sheep or a cow or oxen or a donkey or a horse could be worth so much. You could do so much with the horse. You could till the land. You could use it to travel.
Mm-hmm.
And if you dig a hole and my horse falls down the hole, you have to pay me for a new horse. Or you have to, because this has stopped some of my work and my and how I live.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I think that's what it was. It was like, if you do something to affect, it's not just affecting nowadays my car, because your car could be your livelihood. It's like if you dig a hole in the street and my car falls in it, you should be responsible, because the car is how I make money. So back then they were making money off oxen and goats, and you know that should be fair. Because to be honest, everything that comes from the land, you can live off of.
Yeah.
This, yeah. So
it's answering the question.
Yeah.
I would say, name a couple of these laws. I did that.
Yep, that was it.
Deeply reflective. The ones about the women.
Yeah.
The ones about the women were interesting to me because I already said it. It's like it was less so than servants, because there's a whole thing about servants too, right? If you owe somebody something and you can't pay it, then you become a servant of theirs for like 6 or 7 years, something like that.
Yeah.
But then after the 7th year, or in the 7th year, you get left free. So that's how servantship worked.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like full long sort of slavery type of thing. It's like you're paying a debt. Yeah. So even there's laws in here about how you need to treat your servants. If you treat your servants in the wrong way, you could be punished. Mm-hmm. If your servant being under your responsibility, something happens to them. So those kind of hit me.
Sex with your servant.
You have to take them on as a wife.
Take them on as a wife.
Right. We're kind of paraphrasing here, but it's like if there was just different things in place where it's like, this is how the lay of the land was back then.
Yep.
Mind you, this was before Jesus.
Yes.
And so that could be relevant too. I think it is.
Yeah.
So it's like you have to follow these laws. And so those are the ones. Which one struck you?
Remember the Sabbath.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
The Sabbath and the one with the oxen. I think that because it had to deal with somebody's life. And one of these protection of property. Exodus 22:2. If a thief be found breaking up and be smitten that he die, there shall be no blood shed for him. If the sun is risen upon him, there shall be blood shed for him, for he shall make full restitution.
So basically, if he steals something in the middle of the night and the owner of the home kills him, if a thief breaks in the middle of the night, then it's like, hey, sorry, dog. Sorry. But if he does it in the daylight and is caught, right, then it's like, you have to pay for what you stole, but we're not going to kill you. We're not going to
kill you, yeah. It's something about being a thief in the night.
Ooh!
Because this is the second time that something about us, the second time it's been mentioned where it's like, it's not cool, it's nighttime, people are sleeping, and it's dark.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, it's even worse.
Yeah, because it's like, what are your intentions?
What are your intentions, right? In the daytime, at least I could see you. You broke in my house, broad daylight, I'm home. Just replace my stuff, please.
Right, put that back.
Put that back.
What are you doing? Get out of here.
But at night, you're tiptoeing around. There's no street lights here, guys. It's dark. You know, it's their street lights are the sun and the moon. And it's the sun.
I'm sure they had lanterns
and the stars.
I don't know that.
Nah.
Okay, well.
All right.
That's cool.
Now, Exodus 25-27, building the tabernacle.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that was pretty.
That was pretty profound.
It was pretty.
Like, the way that they broke it down. Buttercup. The way that they broke it down, and then they talk about cubits. Now, the last time I heard about cubits, I believe, is when Noah was building the ark and all this.
Yep.
And it was like 30 by 30 cubits or something like that. So it kind of gave me an understanding of what a cubit is. And this even more so because some of these things were like 1 cubit by 1 cubit or 10 cubit by 10 cubits. So it kind of gave me a better understanding of how big certain things were. God was very specific.
Yes.
And it's interesting because I was trying to figure out, like, how did Moses remember all this? He was probably writing it down. But also, you have nothing else to do but listen to God, so you better remember. And the idea that, you know, God mentioned a lot of things. He mentioned a lot about gold, silver, and bronze, a lot about linens, red threads, blue threads. It was very specific on what to do, how to build the altar, how to make Aaron's
gold.
Yeah, how to make Aaron's clothing, all the gems that were involved. Yeah. So I love that kind of stuff, you know, jewelry and the little crystals and stuff like that. I think those things hold energy, but it's interesting to see. And it's so funny because when I started to learn about crystals, it wasn't in a way of witchcraft or anything like that. I actually looked up this verse, which was funny because this was before we started reading the Bible, but I was like, whenever I started looking at crystals and found out that they held energy, I remember thinking, what does the Bible say about it? And so I looked it up, and I remember coming across this verse because it was very specific about which gems and crystals and stuff like that were used on Aaron's robe, and that's how I ended up picking out which crystals I wanted, right? Onyx.
Yep.
It, like, just different stuff like that. Like, oh, okay, well, I'll do the ones that are in the Bible.
Yes.
I remember thinking that.
So when we're gonna get to.
But so, okay, sorry. What was your question?
No, so I wanted to go over the Ark of the Covenant.
Oh, okay.
The Ark of the Covenant is really cool because it's kind of the first. It's kind of like a. It's the holiness of. It's very holy. And you have to, the way he's describing it, the Lord and the way they built it, it's like you have to build it, and people will hold it, but only people that were chosen priests. So the tabernacle kind of had the Ark of the Covenant. It had the mercy seat. It also had, it says pictures too. See, look at that. We're going to get to that. It had the brass layer. It also had not only about the mercy seat, but it was
winged angelic figures with the cherubim made out of, and it kept saying at some points, I made out of one piece, right? Yep. So it was just very specific and very,
they had a tent. Yep.
Yeah, it was very instruction based.
The incense altar. Yeah. They had the brass laver. So God is very specific on doing this.
On how he wanted things to look.
And here's the question. Why do you think God was so precise? First,
so I was going to give you the ignorant answer.
No, yeah.
Well, because humans aren't that smart. When it comes to like, listen, we're smart, let us tell it. Yeah. But like, even sometimes when I hear from God and I feel like I have a direct instruction, it's like I got to hear it a few times. Yeah. So I recognize the repetition in this, where it's like, oh, he said that already. Okay, he's saying it again. Okay, he's saying it again. I think he was really specific because you just can't leave anything up to the imagination because it'll just get, misconstrued, right? So it's like, hey, build me an altar. That's not specific enough, and then people will be in there doing sin, right? Yeah. And I think also, now that I'm thinking about it, if you have all of these specifics on the blueprints of how something should be, you are so focused on doing the thing that you can't be bothered with other things. So I think even making it this specific and intricate, and he was saying have a weaver do this, have a whoever melds metals or whatever they do, right? Have this person do this. So it's like, if you're so specific that way and you're taking all this care and precision in doing this thing, then you're going to cherish it. You're going to know how important it is because it took you a whole few weeks or months to do this. It's not like you just built up a joint in 30 days like they do some of these houses. Yeah. Right? So I think those are probably the reasons.
That's a good point about being precise. They're really good points. So,
what do you think? Why do you think God was being so precise?
I think you're right. I love humans. I think we're intelligent and smart, but God created the human body. You know how precise that is? We've been trying to do it. We can't do it. Mm-hmm. We can't.
It heals itself.
We're still trying to understand the human body.
Even the people who study the human body can't understand some things still.
Yes.
So it's like, we still, as with all our advanced technology and Wi-Fi and the internet, and we still can't understand the human body and some parts of the way it works, and how miracles can happen. Like, oh, you were supposed to be sick, but you're not anymore. Yes. Oh, we thought you were never going to walk again, and here you are running.
Yes.
Right? So it's like, God, listen.
God created
the earth. We still can't get to Antarctica and stay there for several months.
Can't even stay there. Nobody can live on Antarctica.
That's what I think, man. I'm just like, so.
Yeah, nobody can live there. You can only live there for a couple months.
I'm so fascinated.
You gonna live there?
No.
It's cold.
I ain't talking about living there. I'm just saying I'm so fascinated with the idea of a land that is unable to be inhabited
by us,
and that is God's creation. There's animals that can survive there. And maybe that's where they go to escape. Maybe that's their great migration.
I think there, and I think
I'm gonna write a Disney film, y'all.
I think in some places, and I'm gonna get right back to the question. This is how much. First of all, nobody's ever been to the bottom of the ocean. That's number one. We're still discovering creatures.
Yeah.
And undiscovered places on Earth. This is what I'm saying. We don't listen. I love humans. We're intelligent. We can build flying cars, but we're still finding out what's on Earth.
True.
We're still trying to understand the human body, and these are God's creations, right? We don't even we're just starting to fly to space. We don't even can't even survive in space without a suit. So, so I think he was just like what you said. When you're precise with something, and you give somebody specific instructions, and this is with anything. This is with just being told how to wash dishes. If you're precise, and I'm not comparing dishes to the companies, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying the instructions. I'm just saying the precision. Because if you tell somebody to make sure you fill the drain, organize. All right, you tell somebody washes this, they just wash it. But if you tell somebody, hey, put away the clean dishes first. Wipe off the counter. Organize the dirty dishes. Fill up your water with 2 different kind of soaps. Make sure the water is hot. Make sure you grab a sponge and a rag. Make sure this is this type of rag and this type of sponge. Make sure you go in a circular motion, then in a reverse circular motion, then back and forth. Why? I'm not saying, but I'm just giving that as an example. If you do that, the product comes out more finer, and you get a better, whatever you are creating, it's 10 times better because you're more precise. And God knows how humans are. You can't just say, build, like you said.
Right.
Build an altar. They're going to mess it up. Why'd you build a bull with horns?
Right.
I didn't tell you to do that.
If they're going to get turned around, distracted,
yes,
it's like now you just built a club.
You built a club.
Like, I told you to build an altar for me. What are you doing?
Yes.
It's like, oh, we just wanted to hear the music.
Yeah,
so
like, well, I didn't
tell you to do that.
Listen, I need y'all to build. Oh, there she is. She made a presence.
Oh, Buttercup.
Anyway, all right, guys. So now we're at Exodus 28 to 29. All right, and the tabernacle instructions they continue. So it's pictures on the Bible, and there's one notable one of the garment that God starts breaking down with like Aaron's wearing, how to weave it together, what goes, what layer, the gemstones. I think it was snakes and
Jasper and rubies. There was ruby, topaz,
sapphire.
emerald. So basically, he had 4 rows of stones. The first row was ruby, topaz, and emerald. The second row, turquoise, sapphire, and a diamond. The third row, a jacinth, and a agate, and an amethyst. The fourth row, a beryl, an onyx, and a jasper.
And all these come from the
gold
earth.
Filigree.
Yes, all come from the earth.
Yeah.
That's why it's so valuable. You gotta remember that, man. The earth, everything valuable comes from there. So yeah, this is cool that he had this, and he's not walking. This vest is worth probably so much nowadays.
I mean, it would just be.
It's a value on it, but this is for him to praise God. Just to walk in the tabernacle to be in the
and it was fly. It's fly.
Yeah.
I'm going to see if I can get a picture up there of the illustration that we
have.
have. But it's just this, even as it was being described, you could tell that this was not some ordinary garment, right? It's probably really heavy because of all the jewels and the gold stuff that's on there. And then he has the 2 stones on his shoulders with the names of all the tribes of Israel. So it's like you put this on, and it's kind of like we talk about when you put on a suit or you put on a nice outfit, you feel better. But like you go in and do a thing, it's like a doctor putting on their lab coat. Right? It's like, okay, now I'm ready. It's like putting on an apron or a smock, right? You get ready to go and do some work. You put on your apron and you go hit the grill. It's like, okay, now I'm ready to do this.
To grill,
But like something so precious like this, it probably, I mean, I'm just guessing, it had to be at least 25 to 40 pounds to wear this thing. And it's like, you are being blessed when you put this thing on, and then they had them put on the headpiece.
They had to put on a head.
And I mean, like, you wearing this and you just knowing, and you're walking with God, and all of this is representative, and it's what God wanted it to look like. You know what I mean? It wasn't just some leather jacket or
Yeah.
something that you thought looked good. It's like,
Yeah.
this is what God described.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was pretty fly. Even the bottom of it with the, I don't know if there were bells or whatever.
It was pomegranates.
Mm-hmm.
It was pomegranates and it's right here. It was a pomegranate and gold bells.
Yeah.
Yep. So it was pretty awesome. And okay,
pomegranates of blue and purple and scarlet fabric,
yep,
all around the tent. So even the colors,
yep,
right? It was so interesting the way everything was described. It was great. I mean, it was just an amazing thing.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put a picture up.
Yes. All right. So now here's a question I got. What instructions struck you the most deeply and why? I know, right?
You should answer first.
Okay.
Because I answered all the other ones.
Oh
first.
man, just put it on me the last one.
I mean, I could go first. But...
The kind of what you, I think the instructions of building the garment. I think
they're talking about the tabernacle right here.
Continue.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Sorry, no, you're right. Go ahead. What instructions struck you?
Yeah, design
struck you most deeply, and why?
Yeah, the design of the breastplate. I think that. Oh man, and oh no,
the acacia wood.
The acacia
fact that
wood.
They had 2 rings, so you didn't have to touch the thing.
Oh wait a minute, that's not.
They had these gold rings on the sides of these seats so that you couldn't.
The dedication of the priest, where they had to sacrifice different offerings. So you had one called the burnt offering, one called
a heave offering.
The heave offering, and it's a burnt offering, a heave offering, and it's
sin offering for atonement.
It's a sin offering, yeah, and they would. I'm not gonna lie, it's very intriguing, but it's kind of brutal to rams and
the animals.
The animals, but the way that they specifically do it, and in a manner that they do it, it has to be a lot of work for the priest. And then you have to burn it for God and can't eat any of the food. Now, one of the offerings you can, but that's after you've made. And you got to remember, while you're giving it to God, the animals can't have a blemish. Do you know how hard it is to find an animal without a blemish? That's got to be difficult. So the dedication of the priests, I think, are kind of stands out to me. And the clothing, we just went over it. She's going to post a picture of it. And just kind of, like, they have pictures of, there's another thing where they have a courtyard where it has an altar, it has the Ark of the Covenant, it has a mercy seat, it has a tent where it is built. So it has a tent where it's kind of built, and all this is to praise God. This is God's place, and that's kind of the instructions, the dedication of the priest, because it was a lot of instructions for the sacrifices for the burnt. And look, it sounded like a lot of work, and wearing those garments, it had to be pretty heavy. And back then, I don't know what the weather was like.
It was probably hot.
Yeah. So and so that's what stood out. What about you?
What stood out about the instructions?
Yeah. What struck you deeply?
What struck me deeply?
Yeah, those struck me deeply.
Okay, so I don't want to take your answer.
It was a good answer, guys.
It was a great answer, actually. What struck me deeply was... Okay, so one of the things I be thinking about when he's giving these instructions is like how it's going to come back and be sort of translated or to them. Here's the instructions I got from God. So they had to work together. That's one thing that struck me when I was reading, where he was like, you shall make a sash the work of an embroiderer, right? When they're talking about the acacia wood, a woodworker has to do that. Because you're not just going to get some random person, hey, you do this.
Yeah.
It's like, you have to make this. You have to do this, right? We're going to make this unleavened bread and the unleavened cakes. Somebody who does that well is going to do that. You should put in a basket, right? A basket weaver is going to provide us with a basket. So that's one of the things that kind of struck me, was like, oh, they all have to work together to do this.
Yeah.
This isn't something that is like, oh, I'm going to go and do this on my own. So
Yeah.
they all had to work together. And even in part of the beginning part of what we read this time, when they couldn't touch the mountain, and Moses went up and he came down and kind of gave them instructions, and the Israelites were like, yes, we're going to do everything that God tells us to do. Yep. Right? It's like they had to say it verbally. And I didn't say they had to say it verbally, but it struck me then because we had their buy-in. They said it at least twice, where it's just like, everything you're saying that the Lord is telling us, we accept, we will do, right?
Yep.
So now we're seeing that when they're getting the instructions, this isn't like a one-man show. Mm-hmm. Everybody has to be a part of this. The weavers of the baskets, the people who embroider and make the robes and put the gold bells on the hem. Yep. Everybody had to be a part of this. And then even the offerings and putting the things on his head, it had to be a community experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that kind of struck me pretty deeply. And I mean, I think I said this already, but just the intricacy of the work, right? Made the seat or whatever, the cherubim, all of this carved out of one piece.
Yeah.
Right? That takes a detailed professional to be able to do that. To be able to work with those metals and work with those, and even all of the tools having to be made with bronze, those things like that. It's like there's so much detail, and it struck me just in general that there was so much detail that they were given. So it's not up to them, but even the fact that like it was within their sort of expertise, or maybe it wasn't. Maybe they were like, "How are we going to do this?" Yeah. We don't know that, but they did it.
But they did it. Maybe specific instructions and guidance from God.
Yeah.
You know, he was very hands-on.
Yeah, and just to see how that garment came out, just let you know that like this wasn't of your mind. Like, you didn't create this, but look at the beauty that it is. It's just kind of like nature. When you go look at the Grand Canyon, or you go look at the ocean, and you're thinking, wow, God, this is so amazing. Or even if you're in the woods, or you're looking at just different things like the river or a park or something, and you're like, wow, look at how these trees go. There's some trees around here that have to be a century or so older, and it's just, wow, look at how perfect that has grown. Right? Look at how beautiful it is when the wind blows and the trees and the branches flow in the wind. And so it's just certain things that's like, this had to be from God, because it's just so beautiful and intricate, and no person could have thought of it.
So, that is it.
That's it. That was our reading this week.
Yeah.
Next week we're going to read Exodus 30 through...
Big 4-0?
30 through 40. Yep. Yeah, Exodus 30 through 40 next week. We're super excited to do this, guys. As usual, we always say, don't take our word for it. Go to the source. Read your Bible.
The Bible.
Our question this week is, what has God given you specific instructions on? And it doesn't have to be your specific instructions. That's not anybody's business. But have you ever had a specific instruction from God that you felt you knew was from God, and that, oh, I'm being told to do this way, right? And maybe you didn't even understand it at first, right? But then once you got into it, it's like, oh, I kind of see how this works, right? Or I understand that this is my work to do. So we're really super interested to hear that from you. And then, so a shout out this week has to go to God Is Dope.
Yeah.
Because y'all are wild. Whoever's running God Is Dope, and I probably need to do my research on this, y'all get me every time. When I got that text message last week talking about $3.99 sale, You know, I got some stuff for $3.99, and I got some stuff that was more than $3.99.
Yeah, so shout out, man.
Shout out to God Is Dope.
Yeah.
A couple of things that I just want to say about them is that I love their creativity. These shirts are from God Is Dope. I love their creativity. I love how fast they ship. You know, you get your stuff within a week, and I'm never disappointed.
Nope.
So I love the creativity. I love the freshness, the new designs, and there's even some times where I've gone back and replaced stuff that I already owned.
You gotta get some Jesus shirts, yo. Get some Jesus shirts.
Oh yeah. I didn't see any. I didn't see any last time.
Bring them back.
Yeah, bring back the Jesus shirts. We love those shirts. Yep. Or you know, do what you gotta do. Create some new stuff. I love everything you do. So that's my shout out for the week. Is for God Is Dope.
Yep, and I'm a shout out once again, guys. Listen, if you're tired of hearing the mainstream news about sports, man, tap into my podcast, Fourth Quarter. Link is gonna be in the bio, and we're on all podcasting platforms. You can catch us on YouTube if you want to watch the full episodes during the week. If you just want to watch a snippet, it'll be on YouTube too, and on Facebook as well. So shout out to Fourth Quarter.
Shout out to Fourth Quarter for sure.
So,
well, thanks for joining us for another episode of Is It Crazy? Is It God? Make sure you guys are reading along with us in Exodus 30 through 40.
Yep.
Follow us on all the platforms because we're trying to give you something a little different on each platform. So we recognize that social media, well, I think this is something that I said, but social media is like a buffet. So, or like a potluck. And we wanted to just bring something good to it.
That's it.
So that when you go through the line and you decide what you want to put on your plate, that you have something positive and uplifting that's going to serve you well. So this is what we're bringing to social media.
Yeah.
So come and join us on all the platforms that you're involved with, that you're signed up for. And if you find that we're not on a platform that you enjoy, let us know. Tell us in the comments, or you can always DM us or wherever we are and let us know.
Yes, man. All right, guys. Y'all have a wonderful week. And once again, I got to say it. Don't take my word for it. Go to the source.
Read your Bible.
All right, guys.
Bye.
Peace.